found a death coming from the back, an expert of a deadly knife. Just be careful, just be well, be prepared for the shot. Fast as a shot, the fire of the dark is a gun, with not to harm. The one-way track is not coming back, cause it kills. I'm in town.
Welcome back to CC Rock. I am now joined by the Accept guitarist Wolf Hoffmann. How you doing, Wolf?
Hey man, great to be here. Thanks.
Well, this is an amazing Accept back on tour after a few years, hiatus. You've got a new singer, a new album. Things are really kicking. Tell me about the resurrection of Accept.
Yeah, man, it's just one of those crazy stories. Basically, we were all retired, and one day, about 2 years ago, we met Mark Tonillo at a little jam session that we did one day, and nobody was thinking about regrouping or doing any of that sort of thing, but we liked his voice so much and that we decided then and there to regroup and relaunch the whole career of Accept. This, like I said, it's almost 2 years ago, and we wrote a new album, and now we're on the road, so it's fabulous.
Well, Blood of Nations, that's correctly a new album. It's strong, it's powerful. I mean, to be honest, there's not a lot of new music that comes out that really gets quite the acclaim that you've gotten from this new album. And I hear, of course, you're making it come up with a new album after this pretty soon. So you're very progressive on the album side, making new music. But I very distinctly remember a show. It was Saxon Accept. That was a classic night. Two bands that were on two great albums. You played the Warfield that night. It was on your Restless and Wild tour. What was it like back in the day? I mean, with Udo and the band just kicking into gear high on that album. That was like such a high, I'm sure, for your career. What was it like back then?
Man, yeah, I remember that was the 80s that everybody still talks about. I mean, those were the golden days of metal in a way, We were all young. We had a great time back in those days. I remember that tour with Saxon very well, and it was just a dream come true for a small band from Germany to make it over to the U.S. and actually finally play here and in front of all these, huge crowds. It was amazing. It was a great time. I really look back on those years as, the highlight almost. I mean, we're having a great time now, but, those days were special.
Yeah, well, I think that it's a very special time of music because many groups had so many powerful albums that were just so high in the charts and so much acclaim going on as far as just, from Black Sabbath to Ozzy to so many groups just came up with just potent punches in the early 80s. Now it's, there's not as much out there, let's face it. Heavy metal is coming back. I must say James Durbin doing great on American Idol. That's a good touch. I mean, that's a good sign for it because he sounds like Rob Halford might win American Idol,
Who knows? Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, like I said earlier, the golden days were really in the 80s, but this music never went away. I mean, there's still fans out here who really love this music and they're showing up to our shows now, and so it's really somewhat of a resurgence, and it's never really went any away at all in Europe. I mean, Europe is still huge for this kind of music.
Well, I know you do a lot of really big festivals in Europe, and I know you also had a following in Japan. Have you been involved at all with all the crisis and things going on there? Because I know you had something at a time, except it was pretty big in Japan also.
Yeah, I mean, the Japanese metal market went through major changes also in the last 20 years, but in the 80s it was huge for all of us, and we still go over there quite a bit. So it's really sad for us to see what's going on over there. And that's the first thing we did when we heard about this crisis. We called all the people we knew, and luckily everybody we know is okay because they were mostly in Tokyo and other areas. So it was, but quite tragic indeed.
Flames bust into the night, screaming in your gleaming like the edge on a switchblade knife. Work while erupting underneath the skin. Work while corruption slowly sinks back in. It's a pandemic. It's a mental disease. Pandemic. It's an illusion. We bring it lights in. It's a pandemic. A mental disease. Pandemic. It's an destruction. We need nothing. What we live. Killing through the venom, circulating underneath the skin. Like mercury poison, liquid metal files within. Burning like a wildfire, lost in air. Caught in the crossfire, around the world. There's no way stopping now. Wow, it's a pandemic. It's a mental disease. Pandemic. Locked in your hard drive, smoking up the air. It's a pandemic. Pandemic. It's a mental disease.
Well, I understand you're a big wine connoisseur, and you're kind of in this zone of the world where this is pretty wine. A lot of winos around here. Have you been up to Napa and checked out the countryside?
Matter of fact, I have. Yeah, not too long ago, actually, a good friend of mine lives up there, and they have a winery, and they invited me over there one day, and I actually took the tour. It was beautiful, and he's actually here tonight. So it's certainly, I love good wine, certainly.
Well, I mean, I know that you and Udo got together, did this reunion a few years back. It was short-lived. I guess the last album was called The Final Chapter, I believe. For the fans, everybody wants to know what happened with Udo and why no Udo today. I mean, what's the big, in a short sense? I mean, I know it's probably a long story.
Well, as everything else, it's a very long story. Yeah, I mean, he started doing his own thing in about '89, so well over 20 years ago, and he has been pursuing that more than he's ever been interested in pursuing Accept. It's as simple as that, He came back periodically, but he was really, after '89 or whatever, he was just no longer in Accept, basically, and that's the simple answer.
You couldn't accept that, could you?
No, and I mean, and we didn't. We honestly thought when he said he was no longer doing anything with us, we thought Accept was finished. And then, like I said, everything changed about 2 years ago when we met Mark. And there's the chance for us to go back out and make new albums, and everybody's having a great time.
I'll tell you, the one thing I love to see is maybe you could talk to Biff and get Biff and you guys back out here for another Saxon Accept show at the Warfield and have everybody live their memories of the beautiful days of the 80s. Thank you very much, Wolf.
Loved it. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
right.